Dog worshippers make some very extraordinary claims for their dogs and for dogs in general. They claim that dogs love them unconditionally. They claim that dogs can improve all sorts of personal psychological distress. They claim that dogs are sweet and gentle creatures that will only act aggressively under extreme duress. Their claims about dogs multiply by the week, the month, and by the year. They constantly discover new wonders and added dimensions to dogs that nobody ever noticed before. They claim that dogs are deserving of special treatment and care, above that of all other creatures. They claim that dogs are more important to human society than humans are. Their thoughts and emotions are full to bursting point with the adoration of these animals and the astounding supernatural abilities that they have. Claims for the abilities of dogs go on, and the claims about dogs are truly extraordinary. Not all dog owners believe these wonders. Fantastic claims about dogs come from a very vocal and aggressive minority of activists who use outrage, indignation, and aggression to the fullest amounts when their assertions about dogs are challenged. Most dog owners look at their dogs and see an animal of limited abilities, dependent on humans for their continued existence. Most dog owners look at their dog and see a dog, nothing else. They have a realistic appreciation of what the animal is capable of and what its limits are. Many dog owners would look at their dog and believe that they love the dog, but until very recently, the idea that the dog loves them back would never have entered their heads. Now the belief that dogs love us has become mainstream, accepted as a fact, and rarely questioned or contested. In many of my videos, I have argued against many extreme and unsubstantiated claims about dogs. I have exposed cases when dogs are valued above humans. I have discussed cases in which victims of dog attacks have been blamed for their own deaths, and their families harassed and terrorized for speaking out against dangerous dogs. I have even shared examples of my life and the lives of my family being threatened because I dare speak out against dogs and the oppression of dog-based culture. Most dog owners do not behave like that. Most dog owners do not share these extreme values. Most dog owners keep quiet. It would be tempting to consign dog extremism to a tiny minority of people who have lost contact with reason. It would be tempting, and it would also be wrong. There may be a tiny minority, but it is they who direct the narratives about dogs and stifle any rational or reasoned discussion. They are the people who oppose breed-specific legislation or who lobby and campaign to have breed-specific legislation overturned. They organize and campaign to manipulate and choreograph public opinion in favor of their way of thinking. It is the dog-obsessed activists who shape and determine what the public believes about dogs. They create a false knowledge which, in the absence of any effective resistance, becomes the accepted dog-related knowledge. Ideas such as dogs loving us unconditionally or dogs being humankind's best friend are ridiculous ideas that cannot stand up to any scrutiny, but ideas such as these have now entered mainstream knowledge and are accepted as true. Dog extremists with little grasp of reason have determined that dogs are kind, gentle, and loving, and they have worked hard to steadily introduce these ideas into our consciousnesses. They have been so successful with their propaganda campaign that most of us are willing to ignore all of the attacks, mauling, and killing that dogs do, and treat such evidence of the real savagery of dogs as isolated incidents. Probably everyone listening to this will have seen dogs on leash straining to kill each other, snarling, growling, and lunging. And yet, we seem willing to accept that behavior as indicative of playing, saying hello, being friendly, or protecting their owner. Many of you will have been attacked and bitten by dogs with no warning. But these dog extremists want us to believe that it must have been our fault for upsetting or intimidating the dog, or not recognizing a dog threat mannerism. These dog extremists think that it is reasonable for us to become experts in canine communication in order to keep ourselves and our children safe. Their claims are unreasonable. Their demands are unreasonable, and their responses are unreasonable. However, they demand that we present evidence to refute their beliefs, beliefs that are not only lacking in evidence, but usually run contrary to any available evidence. It is time that we should be asking for evidence of ridiculous claims about dogs. I'm not suggesting that we do this to influence dog extremists. They are way beyond persuasion. The train called reason has left the station. We need to stop the tidal wave of dog-based misinformation which has been engulfing our societies. That's why we need to ask for evidence, and we need to foster in ourselves and encourage in others a sense of critical thinking. I have come across members of pit bull organizations and clubs sneering at people who are frightened of pit bulls because, as they claim, pit bulls don't exist. Because of these irrational, loud-mouthed extremists, society has accepted a range of very stupid ideas. Not only have these extremists pushed stupid ideas down our throats, they have prevented any discussion of simple, rational solutions to the dog problem. I made a comment below my recent video called "They Are Just Like Us," in a brief discussion about the murder by dog of a 3-month-old Irish baby asleep in her cot. I wrote the following, quote, "As a precaution, don't have a dog in the house is not an option to these people. If you even hint at it, they will hate you and call you evil, cold-hearted, soulless, etc. You will be ostracized. You won't be fully human in their eyes. They will baby-proof their home, but they won't even consider getting rid of the fanged, unpredictable, bloodthirsty, remorseless predator. What a sick, twisted world we live in." End quote. We cannot stop these brain-addled sociopaths from continuing to muddy the waters of any future discussions about dogs. But a more promising avenue is to persuade more rational people to critically examine any claims about dogs and their qualities. Our politicians and lawmakers have to stop giving free rein or a long leash to irrational dog worshippers. They have to stop ignoring evidence about the dangers of dogs because self-styled dog experts claim that it's the deed, not the breed, or that all dogs bite, or it's the owner, not the dog. These are meaningless factoids that have now been accepted as true and are very influential in determining dog-based policies. I'm not sure when the idea of dogs providing unconditional love originated, but it did originate 20 years ago at most in the USA and then spread globally. First of all, people got used to the ridiculous idea that the dog, a predatory carnivore, loved humans, who are potentially prey animals. Once people took this on board, the silly idea was cranked up a notch with the insertion of the word unconditional. Now it is taken for granted. No matter how many children are killed by dogs, no matter how many emergency room visits are the result of dog attacks, no matter how many thousands of people have to endure reconstructive surgery after dog attacks. Despite this, not only are we expected to believe that dogs love us unconditionally, but we are treated as heretics if we question the validity of this ridiculous belief system. The lobbying and bullying of the dog worship fraternity has moved a belief that would, in the past, have been seen as worthy of psychiatric care into the mainstream. Extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence, but the evidence that dog worshippers provide us with can only be described as extraordinary in the sense of being unbelievable and lacking in any merit. When asked for evidence, dog worshippers will discredit you by the use of ad hominem insults. They will use the long contact argument, simply stating that humans and dogs have long been in contact with each other, and either leave it at that or suggest that it has been a 24,000-year love fest, when the unconditional love belief is little more than 20 years old. Maybe some individuals believed their dogs loved them, but they would be isolated and marginalized people. People loving dogs rather than dogs loving people is a more rational explanation for what is going on. They will use the hero dog and the variant of the working dog argument. A tiny fraction of the dog population does something which can be seen in a positive light, so that tiny fraction typifies all dogs. They will invent facts and revise history to suit their own ends. They will manipulate scientific studies to suit their own agenda. A number of years ago, there was much use made of a study into hormone activity when dogs were united with their owners. An increase in oxytocin was observed, and dog worshippers concluded that this was proof that dogs loved their owners, because oxytocin is the love hormone. At least, it is the love hormone in the crazy, mixed-up world of the dog enthusiast. Everywhere else, it is a hormone with a wide range of properties. When all else fails, they will use the blood pressure experiments, which they claim prove that dogs lower human blood pressure. What they prove is that in a small number of hospitalized dog lovers, their blood pressure was reduced. What they did not prove was that most dogs reduce blood pressure in most people in most situations. If you have hypertension, it is best to stick with your prescribed medication than to put any faith in a dog. An extremely important element of human safety is being dictated and directed by groups of people who live in a fantasy world of misinformation and paranoid defensiveness. One way we can start to apply the brakes is to ask for clarification and for evidence when we see stories about dogs online, in newspapers, or in any other medium. It is pointless arguing with dog advocates. They are too far gone and are likely to get aggressive. If we bring our own questioning minds onto the subject of dogs and human safety, then we can encourage others to question most of our faulty social beliefs about dogs. We are in a situation now where the majority of people in our societies accept that predatory carnivores love us, are our friends, companions, and even our family members and relatives. This has to stop. If we start to ask for extraordinary evidence when confronted with extraordinary claims, then we will start to move towards a future that is dog free.